Welcome to another episode of your favorite program.
Centrally Speaking is the program that keeps you informed on the work and function of Bank of Jamaica, Jamaica's central bank. I'm Anna.
And I'm Sheena. Big up to all the viewers who never miss a show, and welcome to those of you who are watching for the very first time. I'm glad you could join us.
Yeah, you deserve some new money. I mean, well, Sheena, is summer over?
Summer is here.
It's summer there, man.
Summer is summery.
It just has to stay with us, so. Anyway, viewers, how are you managing? You know, when I eat enough mango, eat enough pear, breadfruit, wagwan over there.
It's Guinea season.
What?
Yeah, it's
Girl,
Guinea
like Guinea?
season. Yes.
No disrespect.
I love pear.
Pearity. Mango, Julie. Julie and Bombay is the only mango people.
No, it's East
Everything
Indian
else
for me.
is a fruit.
And so, you know, we could get carried away with the whole food conversation, but I think,
Me know you.
yeah, it's a thing for me.
Hey, you know, Sashina love food, right?
Yeah, I do. I'm Jamaican. But let's get on with the business of the bank.
Yeah, kind of some meet up about pear. Anyway, in today's episode, we are continuing our conversation with BOJ Governor Richard Byles.
But before we get to the interview, let's head to the streets.
Can you name a former governor of the Bank of Jamaica?
Bank of Jamaica, the governor. What? I remember the governor, you know, I two members, I know, man. When name? Oh, God.
Any one of them, any former or present governor?
The governor of Jamaica, boy. Touch my brains out. I don't remember him now right now. I know them still, but I can't record him right now, you know.
No, I can't. Politics is not my thing, no.
No, but what I want your name? Them a governor. But wait, what I want your name? Me don't know.
Bank of Jamaica governor, no, I don't know any.
I don't remember it now. I don't remember.
Oh, nobody. Me no. Me don't know none of them.
You know, that's bad of me that I can't remember. But I think there's one by the name of Body the Year, Bolatti Body Year or something like that.
Brian Winter.
Derek Latibodier and Brian Winter.
Always exciting to hear from the people in the street. But our previous governor was Brian Winter, and the current is Richard Byles. Sir Richard. Welcome again to Centrally Speaking.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us again, Governor. All right, so you have been telling us a lot about the work and function of Bank of Jamaica. And a part of what you spoke about in our previous interview was about how resilient Jamaica has been. And in light of that, share with us your views in terms of your level of comfort and confidence that Jamaica can withstand shocks in the currency market.
Well, you know, having gone through the pandemic, which was a very severe shock for Jamaica. Remember, we got 0 tourists for maybe a year. That's a severe shock.
Yeah.
But we withstood it. You know, our remittances kind of stepped up to the plate and took the place of tourism in terms of foreign exchange earnings.
Yeah.
All of us in Jamaica need to very quietly be thankful to all of the Jamaicans who live abroad because they gave us a big help in that period of time. So what we have learned, we knew before, but which became very clear, is that the remittances are counter-cyclical. When Jamaica does well, they tend to be pretty low and steady. When Jamaica is under stress of any kind, they tend to step up. I guess they feel they have to give more support to the families out here in Jamaica. And that adds to our resilience. But also, the tourism product came back very quickly, very strongly.
Right.
And what it says is that the quality of our tourism product is also good. And you know, it can take a little bit of buffering and come right back.
Okay.
So those two major sources of foreign exchange for us show that we are quite resilient.
All right, nice. Governor, I want to take it back to the health of the foreign exchange reserves. Hey, you shared some good news about that. But really, does it mean that we have enough to cover the typical 12 weeks?
Oh, more than enough to cover 12
Nice.
weeks. In fact, our reserves would stand in gross terms at 4.6 billion US dollars.
Okay.
Nice.
Is equivalent to 26 weeks of imports
Nice.
of goods and services, so that we are more than twice as resilient in terms of that.
Right.
And the flows of foreign currency into the island has been very strong, particularly in the last year. And we've been able to build those reserves, even as we have participated more in the foreign exchange market to keep the exchange rate. We're not setting the rate, but keeping it stable and taking some of the edge off of it when it tends to peak under particular stress of demand. We go into the market and it kind of levels off a bit. So even in those circumstances, reserves are growing.
Okay, so on the note of reserves, why is it important for a country to have reserves in foreign currency?
I guess it's the same as why is it important for you to have some money in a bank and not live from paycheck to paycheck, which I hope you're not doing.
No.
So you need it for, you know, any special thing that you want to buy or any rainy day.
Yes.
So similarly for us, you know, if we have a big capital project that requires foreign exchange, we can do it.
Okay.
Or if we have a particular period of stress, we still do have currency to buy the oil, to buy the food, to pay for our debt. So it's important in that sense.
I want to get in on the exchange rate, Governor. Right. So you had said that the exchange rate is stable. But from the perspective of the ordinary Jamaican, sometimes it go up, sometimes it go down. You know, sometimes it 155, it 151. For the average Jamaican, that is not stable. But how would you reassure the Jamaican public?
Yeah, well, stable is a relative thing.
Yeah.
If you ask most businessmen, they would say that the dollar has been more stable in the last 2 years than previously.
Nice.
And so it tends to move between, let's say, 155, 50 where it is today, to 153 or so. And within that band, it moves up and down, which is a pretty small level of volatility. So we're not set on fixing an exchange rate and it just flatline. We want a market to set the rate from day to day. But we think that there are times when there's more demand than supply, and so we go in and try and provide that supply. Sometimes there's more supply than demand, and to the extent that people want to offer us foreign exchange to buy, we will buy it. So you just like tomatoes, lettuce, yam, when you go to the market, it's not the same price every day. But so long as it is within a reasonable corridor of fluctuation, we can say that it is stable.
Okay.
I mean, even the US dollar on the international markets moves up and down every day.
Yeah. So, Governor, I have another question for you. Has to do with inflation. Please share with us your projection in relation to where the inflation may be by the end of Q3 and Q4.
So we are currently in Q3.
Yes.
And I expect this quarter to be a bit bumpy. It's going to be bumpy because agricultural prices, domestic agricultural prices, are rising. And they're rising because we've had a pretty hot, rainless summer period. So we see those prices going up, and that's going to impact inflation a lot because it's a big portion of the CPI basket. After this quarter, getting into the last quarter, I think we'll see prices start to subside, so long as international commodity prices continue their general trend downwards. And that's a big if, because we don't have control over those prices, whether it's energy, whether it's wheat or it's corn or soya. Those prices are set for us internationally. And worse still, they are, especially these days, very subject to geopolitical issues, whether it's Russia, Ukraine, or the price of oil and what's happening in the Middle East or elsewhere. So we feel, however, that the general trend is that in the last quarter, international commodity prices will come off, continue to come off, and domestic prices like our agricultural food prices will also come back down. We'll have more rain and production will come up.
Okay.
So last quarter, we expect inflation to be at or around 6% or a little less.
Governor Byles is optimistic that the economy is headed for better days. He's actually expecting that inflation will be about 6% in the last quarter. It's time for a break. We'll hear more from Governor Richard Byles in just a moment.
Introducing the new $2,000 note. The new $2,000 note was created to help bridge the gap between the $1,000 and $5,000 notes. With the introduction of the $2,000 note alongside the $1,000 and $5,000 notes, fewer notes will be required to settle transactions. For example, instead of using 4 $1,000 notes to settle a transaction of $4,000, an individual could use just 2 notes, a combination of 2 of the new $2,000 notes. This substitution effect will lead to less reliance on the heavily demanded $1,000 bill, as well as generate cost savings for the bank over time.
You're watching Centrally Speaking, and we've been getting an update on the country's economy from Governor Richard Byles. So, Governor, you have been talking a lot about monetary policy transmission. Please break that down in simple language for us so we can understand and everyone, our viewers, can understand. What does that mean?
Okay, so monetary policy transmission means that when the central bank wants to change policy, it sends out signals, and principally it sends that signal by the rate that we are prepared to pay for commercial banks deposits in our institution. So remember, whenever a commercial bank has any extra cash, apart from what they may keep in their little vault, they send their cash here. Just like what we would do. You'd keep some in your pocket and you'd put some in the bank. Yeah. They do the same thing. Okay. And the rate that we pay on those funds is a signal to them as to whether we want to tighten monetary policy or we want to loosen it. If we pay them a high rate, they say, oh, that's not a bad thing. I'll put more cash there. Right? I'll lend less and put more in the Bank of Jamaica because it's very safe in the Bank of Jamaica. And I don't have to take any risk, and I'm getting a good rate of return. So in that way, we're encouraging them to not lend, but to give it to us. If we lower rate way down, 0.5 is what it was before the pandemic. They'll say, boy, putting my money in the central bank is a waste of time. I'm going to try and lend it out as much as possible. And that is a loosening of monetary policy. Okay. We expect also that when we raise rates, the rates in the money market and the capital markets will also rise. So you as an investor may say, where should I put my $100,000? You say, well, I can either go and put it in a bank and get a very low rate, or I can buy a CD, or I can get a repo. Now, those rates tend to move very quickly with the Bank of Jamaica rates. Also, if we tighten liquidity, if we sell a lot of securities into the market and take cash out, what that does is tighten up the system a lot. So between how we manage liquidity and the rates that we set, we have the ability to bring more money into the central bank or send it back out. Okay. And that generally is the monetary transmission system. It's not absolutely precise in the sense that if we move rates today, it doesn't mean everything moves today also, but eventually it works its way through the system and has the impact that we desire.
Thank you.
All right, Governor, so using transmission, let me just gear down a little bit. Go down to gear 2. You've been governor for about 4 years.
Yes.
What keeps you up at night?
Well, fundamentally, because we are in charge of two basic mandates. Those are the ones that keep me up at night. Mandate one, that the financial system is stable and strong. So we're constantly surveying the financial system, the commercial banks, and even beyond the commercial banks too, to see that the capital that is in them is sufficient, that the liquidity in them is sufficient, and that the operating results of these institutions are headed in the right direction to make us feel comfortable that depositors' money in them is also safe. So that always is something that you're considering in your mind. And every month we look at all of these institutions and assess them from that point of view. The other mandate has to do with inflation fighting. And this one is in a way more difficult because we have less direct control over it. We are subject to international commodity prices, and the transmission takes a while to work. So we are always concerned, are we tightening it up enough? Should we tighten it more? Should we wait a little longer to see what the results are like? So eventually what we want to see is inflation come down as fast as possible back into that corridor. We don't want to overdo it and strangle the economy by raising rates too high. But at the same time, we want to make sure that that policy signal and that transmission system is telling the economy what we want, which is to keep prices down. So that keeps me awake at night too.
I mean, even though you're awake, you don't look like you're not getting a sleep still. You still look
that's
good. Yeah,
right.
So now that we've explored what keeps you awake, what would you like to leave behind? Governor, what would you like your legacy for Central Bank of Jamaica to be?
Sounds like you're getting rid of me very short.
No. It's an ongoing legacy.
Well, I can think of a couple of things. One is, of course, I'd like to be able to deliver Twin Peaks. So in another 2 years, I'm hoping that we will have Twin Peaks in a place where we can say it was successfully delivered. That timetable may suffer a bit from the legislative process, but let's say in 2 years. That's a very important, massive change in the supervisory framework in Jamaica. And I'd like to be able to say that we delivered it. I'd like to be able to say that JAMDEX, or central bank digital currency, was also successful, that the banks are taking it on board and that individuals are using it, and that it is fulfilling its mandate, which is to be more efficient and to be less costly. So I'd like to see that happen also. Of course, I'd like to see inflation get back to the 4 to 6, probably in the region of about 5%. I'd very much like to see that happen quickly and to stay in that region. Finally, I would say, although it's a last, it's not the least. I really want to see Bank of Jamaica staff become even more engaged than they currently are. I think we have had some success in the last couple of years, but I think there is even more that we can do. I'd like to see the Bank of Jamaica, which has a very highly skilled professional staff, be even more involved and invigorated by the work that we do here, to be engaged in all our activities, to be proud of the institution, and to deliver even better service than we currently do.
Wow. Thank you for that.
I'm okay.
A fabulous legacy.
Yes, Twin Peaks, JAMDEX, a more invigorated Bank of Jamaica staff. Governor Richard Byles sharing his last words of the lasting legacy he'd like to leave. We're so happy you could join us, Governor Byles. Viewers, join us back after the break.
Jamaica's currency has a fresh new look. Introducing the new $50 note. The new $100 note. The new $500 note. The new $1,000 note. The new $2,000 note. The new $5,000 note. Jamaica's new banknotes, modern, more secure, and made to last.
So this week we continued our conversation with Governor Richard Byles. So here are some of the key points from the discussion. In other words, it's time for the fast facts. Number 1. Remittances in the post-pandemic era has increased, contributing significantly to foreign exchange earnings. Good news. Number 2. Foreign reserves currently stand at $4.6 billion US, which is equivalent to 26 weeks of imports. Some other good news. Number 3, it is necessary for a country to have reserves in foreign currency to support its monetary system, cover debt, and absorb economic shocks and other eventualities. And number 4, the Jamaica dollar has been relatively stable over the past 2 years against its US counterpart. And finally, at number 5, the monetary policy transmission mechanism is BOJ's signal to the commercial banks of its intention to tighten or loosen liquidity within the financial system. That means how much money is available. And that's it for the fast facts.
And that's a wrap for our show this week.
Wow, it has been an amazing 2 weeks as we've had Central Bank Governor Richard Byles giving us a bare good news, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, like Santa Claus, you know what I mean? Enough good news. But to continue the conversation, watch the episodes. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook, Central Bank JA, and on Instagram, Central Bank Jamaica. You can also visit the website at boj.org.jm.
We also invite you to send in your questions on Twitter or Facebook.
Oh, you don't have no question for me? Like, you know what, ask me something. Ask me
Never
something,
asked me nothing
man.
yet.
Jesus, you don't ask me nothing. You don't know nothing about me?
No, Anna.
Oh.
We know you like pear and mango.
You don't want nothing else?
Oh my God.
Okay, but anyway, what's Centrally Speaking next week at the same time, right here on your station, when we'll have another special guest. You know we do that thing there. I'm Anna.
And I'm Sheena.
Thanks for watching.
Centrally Speaking is a production of Bank of Jamaica.